Alright, I'm going to show you how to make a star cuff. Alright, you're going to need scissors and string, and of course some beads. This type of cuff could be made with 3 or just 2 colors, but since this is a tutorial and I want it to be easy to follow, I will be using 4 colors. You start it off with 2 filler beads and a connector bead. 2 filler beads and a connector bead. Keep going till you get to the length that you need, but you need to have an even amount of the connector beads. So you can't do 45 beads around, which would give you a total of 15 connector beads. You need to do 48 beads around, which will give you a total of 16 connector beads. But once you get to the length that you need, tie a knot. Alright, so here's where I tied the knot, and then I went through the connector bead, and then I added on a filler bead, connector bead, filler bead. Thread into the next connector bead on the cuff. And then it's filler bead, connector bead, filler bead. Thread into the next connector bead on the cuff. And just keep following that all the way around. I've also changed every other color of connector bead. Make sure the first one that you do is the different color, and then back to the original color. Different color, back to the original color. So here's where I tied the knot. As I came around, I threaded through the connector bead, filler bead, and this connector bead. And then it's filler bead, connector bead, filler bead. Thread into the next connector bead on the cuff. Filler bead, connector bead, filler bead. Thread into the next connector bead on the cuff. And just keep following that sequence. I'm also changing the color of the connector beads. All of them will be green again. Alright, as I made my way around, I threaded into this connector bead, through this filler bead, and out this connector bead. And then it's 2 filler beads. Thread into the next connector bead on the cuff. 2 filler beads. Thread into the next connector bead on the cuff. Just continue that sequence all the way around. Alright, when I made my way around, I threaded into this connector bead, out these filler beads, and then I added on 3 filler beads, a connector bead, 3 filler beads. Then you skip over the next set of filler beads on the cuff and thread into the set after. And then it's the same thing. 3 filler beads, connector bead, 3 filler beads. Skip over the first set of filler beads on the cuff and thread through the next set. And just keep following that sequence all the way around. As I came around, I threaded into these filler beads and then up through these ones and out the connector bead on top. Then I go back to the original filler bead color, connector bead, 3 filler beads. Thread into the green connector bead in the middle. Not the purple, the green. This is why I did the different colors. Then it's 3 filler beads, connector bead, filler bead, thread into the next connector bead on the cuff. And as you thread through, you go back into the filler bead and the connector bead. Then it's 3 filler beads, thread into the green connector bead in the middle of the cuff, and just follow that all the way around. As I made my way around, I went through the connector bead, added on 3 filler beads, then went through the connector bead, filler bead, and the connector bead on the other side. Now you just got to pull everything tight, tie a knot, so I can work on the other side. So I started off by tying into one of the off-colored connector beads in the middle, threading up to the connector bead on the top or outside, whatever you want to call it, through those filler beads, and then 3 filler beads, connector bead, 3 filler beads. Skip the next set of filler beads on the cuff and thread into the set of filler beads after that. And then it's 3 filler beads, connector bead, 3 filler beads. Skip the next set of filler beads on the cuff and thread through the set after that. And just keep going around like that. As I made it around, I went through the 2 filler beads on the cuff, then the set of 3, and out the connector bead up top. Then I added on a filler bead and went through the connector bead in the middle, the filler bead, through the connector bead on the other end, going that way. Then I turned it around and went through the filler bead, connector bead, filler bead I just added on, and the connector bead on the outside, going that way. Then I went down through the set of 3, through the 2, through the 3, and then out the connector bead. Then I added on a filler bead, went through the connector bead in the middle, and the filler bead, and the connector bead on the other side. Went that way. Then went through the filler bead, connector bead, filler bead, out the connector bead on the other side, going that way. And just continue working your way through with each one. Once you've come all the way around, you've done the last one, just pull everything tight and tie a knot. And when you're all done, it should look something like this.